Chosen one, listen closely. Heaven itself has paused to take notice of you in this very moment. The air around you might seem ordinary, but in the spirit, it's trembling with divine excitement. For what feels like the first time in forever, heaven is smiling. Not out of pity, not out of some obligation, but purely out of joy, because you finally did the one thing God was waiting for you to do. You surrendered. You finally let go of trying to do things your way, and you said, "Yes, Lord." That whisper, that small act, changed everything. You may not even realize it yet, but all of heaven took notice. The angels leaned in closer when you prayed that final prayer of release. When your voice cracked with emotion, when your tears hit the floor, that wasn't the sound of defeat. No, that was the sound of deliverance. The throne room in heaven responded with joy, and the smile of the Almighty broke through the clouds that had been hovering above your life for far too long. For such a long time, you tried to fight battles that were never meant for you to fight in the first place. You carried the weight of other people, the burdens of borders, and the pressures of timelines that exhausted your very soul. You questioned, "God, do you even see me in all of this?" And the silence that followed felt overwhelmingly heavy. But now, heaven answers, not through thunder, not through fire, but through a profound and calming peace. God says, "I saw you the entire time, and this time, you finally let me lead the way." End quote. Chosen one, you need to truly understand what just happened in the unseen realm. When you released control, spiritual laws shifted in your favor. Chains that had been wrapped tightly around your purpose for years began to snap and break. The very things that used to resist you are now bowing down, clearing the path to make way for your next chapter in life. That's the reason your spirit feels lighter than it has in ages. That's why peace has begun to replace the panic that you had become so accustomed to. It's not a coincidence. It's a divine response to your surrender. There are moments in heaven's timeline where a single act of obedience carries more weight than years of striving and struggling. This was that moment for you. You might not have felt any fireworks. You might not have seen a sign. But the angels saw the explosion of surrender within your spirit. And the Father smiled because surrender is heaven's native language. And you finally spoke it fluently. You were not created to survive solely on your own strength and willpower. You were never called to force outcomes or to chase after validation from others. Your assignment, your divine purpose, was always obedience to God. And now that you've aligned yourself with that call, watch and see what happens next. Doors that previously refused to open will suddenly begin to swing wide. Not because you pushed harder, but because you stopped pushing altogether. You allowed the will of God to carry you instead of trying to carry the will of God yourself. There's a unique kind of peace that only comes after enduring the storm of resistance. It's not loud or boisterous. It doesn't need attention or fanfare. It just rests gently upon you, steadily and calmly, like the morning dew. That peace is heaven's confirmation that you're finally on the right path. The smile of God is not distant or far away. It's radiant over you right now, showering you in warmth and love. Listen closely, chosen one. Heaven doesn't celebrate achievement the way the world does. It doesn't cheer for accumulation, status, or worldly success. Heaven rejoices over obedience and faithfulness. It celebrates surrender and humility. You did something that most people never do. You let go when it felt like it would cost you everything. And that act, that quiet, yes, became a sound that reverberated throughout eternity. Some of you feel like you've failed too many times for God to smile upon you. But hear this loud and clear. Failure was never final in the hands of grace. You may have thought you were disqualified from God's love and favor, but heaven only saw a delay in your journey. And today, that delay has officially ended. The divine smile over your life isn't based on your perfection or flawless performance. It's based on your posture, the attitude of your heart. God smiles when your heart says, "I'm yours, Lord." We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 25, verse 10. All the ways of the Lord are loving and faithful toward those who keep the demands of his covenant. This is why heaven smiled, because love and faithfulness met your obedience. Today, Every angel assigned to your destiny now moves in perfect synchronization with the promise that was just activated within you. You didn't just make a simple decision. You triggered a divine sequence of events. Chosen one, take a deep breath and let that truth settle deep down in your spirit. You no longer walk under the heavy shadow of striving and struggling. You walk under the radiant smile of God. From this moment forward, things will not look the same as they once did. When you pray, heaven will answer you differently. When you move forward, peace will go before you, clearing the path. When you rest, the very presence of God will cover you like a warm and comforting blanket of light. Don't rush through this moment. Let it sink in and take root. Heaven is not frowning at your past mistakes. It is rejoicing in your present moment. You are not forgotten or overlooked. You are celebrated and cherished. You are not abandoned or alone. You are chosen. If this word resonates deeply with you, if your spirit recognizes the truth within it, then show heaven your agreement and gratitude. Like this message, share it with others so that they may feel what you just felt, and comment 77 below as your prophetic act, your declaration that you have chosen surrender over struggle. Heaven has smiled, chosen one, because you finally did this thing. There is something sacred about the weight you finally laid down. Chosen one, heaven watched intently as you unclenched your fists and let go of what was never truly yours to hold in the first place. It wasn't weakness or failure. It was an act of worship. You may have thought you were giving up on your dreams, but in truth, you were giving back to God what always belonged to Him. Every burden that once pressed heavily on your chest was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you, to mold you and shape you until you learned the true power of release. You see, God never designed your shoulders to carry what His hands alone can hold. Every sleepless night, every moment you tried desperately to fix what was beyond your power to control, was slowly and steadily draining your strength. You've been trying to hold together things that heaven was already in the process of taking apart. You didn't lose it all. God removed it because His mercy sometimes looks like subtraction in our lives. When you finally released that pain, that person, that difficult situation, you aligned yourself with the divine flow of the universe. The spiritual realm shifted because your release became heaven's signal. You chose trust over control. You chose peace over pride. You finally said, "Lord, I can't do this anymore." And heaven replied, "Good, now I can step in." That's when everything started to change. The weight you carried was never ordinary. It was attached to years of disappointment, rejection, and misunderstanding. You learned to smile while breaking inside, to serve while bleeding emotionally, to love while being constantly overlooked. But God was watching the whole time, not with judgment or condemnation, but with deep compassion and understanding. He knew that when you finally laid it all down, the intense pressure that was crushing you would become the very platform that elevates you. Chosen one, this is why the release felt so incredibly heavy, because you weren't just letting go of what hurt you. You were letting go of who you thought you had to be in order to survive. You were letting go of your false strength, the illusion of control. Heaven smiled, not because you cried, but because your tears were holy. Every tear became a powerful testimony, written in invisible ink upon the pages of eternity. When God looks at you now, He doesn't see brokenness or imperfection. He sees unwavering trust. And trust is the purest form of worship there is. You've been trying to carry your calling all by yourself. But your calling was never yours to carry. It was always His calling for you. And now that you've released it back to Him, the anointing can flow freely again. You will soon notice how different the air feels when the burden is no longer yours to bear. Peace will walk with you into rooms where anxiety used to dominate. Joy will quietly take the place of sorrow. You'll laugh again, not because everything is perfect, but because your soul is finally light enough to breathe. The enemy fought so hard to keep you bound to that weight, because he knew the incredible freedom that was waiting for you on the other side of your surrender. The moment you dropped what drained you, your vision cleared. You began to see again, not through the fog of fear, but through the clear eyes of faith, and heaven smiled because the real you began to rise. There is a sound in heaven that only plays when one of God's chosen releases a burden. It is the sound of chains falling, breaking apart and hitting the ground. The echo of wings unfolding, ready to take flight. You have stepped into that sound. You have entered into the rhythm of heaven's rest. You may wonder what happens next. The answer is simple. Peace. Not the kind of peace that depends on understanding every detail, but the kind that surpasses all understanding. The peace that doesn't need an explanation, because it knows who holds tomorrow. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 8. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. That's the promise that surrounds your release. You didn't just let go. You made room in your life for something greater. And what's coming to fill that space is not loss, but life abundant. The very absence you feared will soon be filled with divine presence. Chosen one, rest in that truth. You have not failed. You have been refined. You are not behind. You are being aligned with God's perfect timing. The weight you laid down was never yours to keep. It was a test of faith, and you passed with flying colors. Heaven smiled, not because you proved yourself strong, but because you finally stopped pretending to be. Now move lightly and freely. Speak softly, with grace and kindness. Love freely without reservation. You no longer carry what once buried you. You walk forward as one unburdened, guided by the one who goes before you, paving the way. And every step you take from here is lighter, because it is no longer yours alone. It is his. Chosen one. When heaven took notice of your surrender, everything around you began to shift. What seemed still and stagnant in the natural realm started to move in the unseen realm. You may not have heard trumpets blaring or seen flashes of light in the sky, but heaven noticed the precise moment your heart turned toward surrender, when you whispered that small prayer of release. The spiritual world roared in recognition of your faith. Angels marked that hour as significant, and your name was spoken among the faithful. You must understand this. Heaven is not silent towards you. You've walked through seasons that felt like abandonment, but silence was never absence. It was preparation for what was to come. Heaven waits patiently for obedience, and when it finds it, it celebrates loudly and joyfully. You didn't need applause from people. You already had affirmation from the throne of God. Every unseen yes that you've spoken to God has echoed throughout eternity. Somewhere between your pain and your persistence, God's eyes were fixed intently upon you. There are millions who breathe, but not all are watched and cherished like this. You are not one among many. You are marked among the few. Heaven noticed when you forgave without receiving an apology. Heaven noticed when you loved without any apparent reason to do so. Heaven noticed when you stayed strong, when it would have been so much easier to just give up and walk away. These were the secret sacrifices that made the heavens rejoice. The spiritual realm celebrates not perfection, but perseverance. You've been tested, misunderstood, stretched beyond your limits, and still you didn't break. Heaven recorded each and every one of those moments. You may have felt unseen by people, but your obedience lit up the heavens like a roaring fire in the dark. Angels were assigned to you, not because you shouted loud prayers, but because you whispered faithful ones when no one else was watching. It's easy to believe that heaven only notices miracles and grand displays of power. But heaven also celebrates the process of growth. Every inch you've grown in faith was witnessed and celebrated. Every temptation you overcame, every battle you chose to walk away from with your head held high, those are the victories that draw heaven's attention and admiration. And now, the record of your perseverance stands as a powerful testimony before God's throne. When heaven takes notice, favor begins to find you in unexpected and surprising ways. The same places that ignored you will soon recognize you and acknowledge your worth. Not because of your own strength or accomplishments, but because of your humble surrender to God. The light that's shining on you isn't self-made. It's heaven's direct response to your endurance and unwavering faith. There's a holy ripple effect happening in your life right now. Your quiet obedience is stirring miracles for those who are connected to you. The people who once doubted your faith will soon witness its incredible fruit in your life. Heaven's notice is not a silent nod of approval. It's a divine declaration. This one belongs to me. End of as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. Luke 15 verse 10 declares, "There is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." End of chosen one. Pause and let that truth sink in. Heaven throws a massive celebration when even one soul turns towards God. Imagine the sound of rejoicing when you, His chosen one, decided to align your life completely with His will. The angels danced, not because of your perfection, but because of your courageous decision. Heaven's recognition isn't temporary or fleeting. It's eternal. Once you're marked by God, you remain marked forever. That's why certain doors open easily for you now. It's not a coincidence. It's confirmation that you're on the right path. The favor that follows you is not random or accidental. It's royal favor, bestowed upon you by the King of Kings. You've been seen by the King, and He calls you His own, a beloved child of God. You may feel small and insignificant in your own eyes, but heaven calls you mighty and valiant. Don't underestimate the weight and significance of being noticed by God. When heaven acknowledges you, no earthly rejection or disapproval can diminish your worth or invalidate your identity. Every no you faced from people was simply a redirection towards a divine yes from God. End quote. Heaven noticed your persistence in prayer, even when answers were delayed. Heaven noticed your gratitude, even in times of scarcity. Heaven noticed your worship, even when your heart was breaking into a million pieces. None of it went unseen. Every act of faith has been woven into a beautiful tapestry of divine remembrance. And now, heaven's eyes are upon you, not to judge or condemn, but to rejoice and celebrate. Chosen one, if your spirit recognizes this truth, type, "Heaven sees me," in the comments below, not as a meaningless ritual, but as a sincere declaration of your faith. Because every time you affirm what heaven already knows to be true, you strengthen your alignment with divine reality. When you write it, you're not just typing empty words. You're proclaiming your true identity as a child of God. You're saying, "I believe that I am seen, known, and deeply loved by God. All the eyes of heaven have not overlooked you. Your prayers are not wasted or ineffective. Your tears are not forgotten or ignored. You are not hidden in the shadows. You are being highlighted and celebrated. The celebration has already begun in the unseen realm. And soon, what heaven knows to be true will manifest in your tangible reality. Lift your head up high, chosen one. Heaven sees you, and that changes everything. Chosen one, before the breakthrough, there was the breaking. You know that feeling well. The quiet pain that sat beneath every prayer you uttered. The lonely nights when you wondered if God had turned away from you. Those difficult moments didn't destroy you. They transformed you into the person you are today. What tried to break you was only preparing the soil for the seed of your obedience to take root and flourish. Heaven never wastes a single wound. Every ache, every disappointment, every unanswered question. It all carried a divine purpose that you couldn't yet see. You walked through fire that others could not have survived. Some people laughed at your persistence and unwavering faith. Others called your faith foolish and naive. They saw the cracks in your armor, but they couldn't see the powerful covenant God had made with you. You were not being punished or reprimanded. You were being purified and refined. The breaking was heaven's way of stripping away everything that could not carry the immense weight of your calling. It was not an act of cruelty, but an act of precise calibration. There were days when it felt as if your prayers were falling on deaf ears. But heaven was not ignoring you. God was watching intently to see what would remain when everything else was stripped away. Would you still trust Him when the blessings stopped flowing? Would you still praise Him when your hands were empty? You did. And that's the reason you're still standing strong right now. Chosen one, the breaking did not come to kill you. It came to reveal the incredible strength within you. You had to be crushed so that the anointing oil could flow freely. Every great purpose is birthed in private pain. What you endured was the evidence of your anointing, not the absence of it. The enemy tried to convince you that you were being abandoned by God. But you were actually being anointed through affliction. Do you remember those seasons when you felt invisible, unheard, and unwanted? Heaven was silent, not because it was absent, but because it was actively working behind the scenes. You were being stretched beyond your human comfort zone so that you could learn to depend solely on divine strength. You had to learn that mere survival alone was not your destiny. You were made to overcome and conquer. Each battle you faced was necessary for your growth. Every wound you sustained became a door through which wisdom entered your life. You began to see that what you lost along the way was not wasted. It was traded for clarity and a deeper understanding of God's purpose. Pain became your tutor, teaching you what true peace really means. Loneliness became your sanctuary, showing you who God really is when everything else fades away. Now, as you look back on your journey, you can begin to see the undeniable fingerprints of God, even in the hardest and most challenging chapters of your life. The very storm that threatened to drown you is the same storm that taught you how to walk on water with unwavering faith. You learned that faith isn't proven in comfort and ease, but in the midst of chaos and uncertainty. You discovered a strength within yourself that you didn't even know existed until you had no other choice but to stand firm. You were chosen for this kind of refining process because your destiny required immense endurance. There are mantles of leadership and influence that cannot be carried by those who haven't been tested by fire. You have been forged in hidden fires, and heaven has recorded every tear you've cried. Even when you thought your prayers were lost in the wind, angels were diligently collecting each and every word. Now that the intense season of breaking is finally passing, you can finally see why it had to be so intense. God was not breaking you apart. He was breaking you open. There's a significant difference between the two. When something breaks apart, it's ruined beyond repair. When something breaks open, it's ready to be filled with something greater. You have been opened for greater glory than you could ever imagine. The Word of God declares in the book of Psalms chapter 126, verse 5, "Those who sow in tears shall reap with shouts of joy. Every tear you cried was a precious seed planted in fertile ground, and heaven never forgets its harvest. You cried, but you planted seeds of hope and faith. You suffered, but you sowed seeds of perseverance. And now, the appointed time for reaping your harvest is rapidly approaching. Joy is not a distant dream. It is the next season of your life. Chosen one, what almost broke you actually built you up into the strong and resilient person you are today. You now walk with an authority that can't be taught in a classroom. It can only be earned through enduring hardship. You carry an empathy that was birthed from your own pain, a compassion born of deep understanding. These unique qualities make you incredibly dangerous to the forces of darkness, because you no longer operate from a place of fear, but from a place of unwavering faith. Your scars are not signs of defeat. They are undeniable proof of your survival. Heaven smiles when it sees them, because they tell a powerful story of unwavering trust in the face of adversity. You are living evidence that broken things can still carry immense glory, that wounded hearts can still host divine fire. Now, when storms come your way, you will no longer panic or be consumed by fear. You've seen the worst of what life can throw at you, and you've witnessed God's miraculous hand in the midst of it all. Your faith is not fragile or easily shaken. It's fortified and unyielding. And though you may still face new battles and challenges along the way, none of them will break you the way they once did. For you now know the secret. Every breaking is a prelude to a birthing. Heaven watched you crawl through seasons that others would have abandoned long ago. The Father saw you bleeding and hurting, and still believing in His promises. That is why the next chapter of your life will not be marked by sorrow and despair, but by incredible strength and unwavering hope. You have passed the breaking point, and now you rise in beauty and power. Chosen one, there were moments when heaven seemed quiet, so quiet that it felt like even the wind held its breath. You prayed, you waited patiently, and the silence stretched on like an endless night. But listen carefully to this truth. Silence is not absence. The Father's smile often hides behind a veil of stillness. Just as the sun remains shining even when clouds cover it, so did God's favor remain steadfast in your life, even when His voice seemed far away. You didn't realize it then, but heaven was smiling while you waited. The silence was not rejection or disapproval. It was divine orchestration. The potter doesn't speak while carefully shaping the clay. He works in silence, pressing and molding with the utmost care and precision. That's exactly what he was doing with you during those silent seasons. Every unanswered prayer was a gentle touch, guiding you towards his purpose. Every delay was part of his perfect design. God was not ignoring you. He was sculpting something sacred and beautiful out of your surrender. The waiting made you wiser and more discerning. You began to see that his smile isn't always loud or boisterous. It's often patient, steady, and enduring, like a constant flame. When you were questioning your own worth and value, he was watching you, chosen one. Listen closely. Heaven has paused and focused its gaze upon you in this very instant. The air around you might seem completely normal, yet in the spiritual realm, it is trembling with a holy excitement. For the first time in what feels like forever, heaven is smiling. Not from a place of pity, not out of obligation, but purely out of unadulterated joy, because you have finally done the one thing God was waiting for you to do. You surrendered. You released your grip on your own plans and desires and said, "Yes, Lord." That one simple whisper irrevocably changed everything. You may not fully grasp it yet, but all of heaven took notice. The angels leaned in with anticipation when you prayed that final prayer of release. When your voice broke with emotion, when your tears fell to the floor, that was not the sound of defeat echoing through the heavens. It was the sound of deliverance, the sound of freedom. The throne room responded with resounding joy, and the smile of the Almighty broke through the dark clouds that had hovered over your life for so long. For what seems like an eternity, you tried to fight battles that you were never meant to fight in the first place. You carried the weight of other people, of boundaries, and of timelines that ultimately exhausted your soul. You questioned, "God, do you even see me down here?" And the silence that followed felt deafening and heavy. But now, heaven answers you, not through earth-shattering thunder, not through a consuming fire, but through an unexplainable and calming peace. God says, "I saw you the entire time, and this time, you finally allowed me to lead the way." End quote. Chosen one, you need to truly grasp what just occurred in the unseen realm. When you released control, spiritual laws and principles shifted. Chains that had been wrapped tightly around your purpose for years began to snap and break apart. The very things that used to actively resist you are now bowing down in submission to make way for your next chapter in life. That is precisely why your spirit feels so much lighter than it has in a long time. That is precisely why peace has begun to steadily replace panic and anxiety. This is no mere coincidence. It's a direct divine response to your surrender. There are certain significant moments in heaven's timeline where a single act of obedience carries far more weight than years upon years of striving and struggling. This was undoubtedly that moment for you. You might not have felt any fireworks or seen any grand displays, but the angels witnessed the tremendous explosion of surrender. And the Father smiled because surrender is the native language of heaven. And you finally spoke it fluently and with conviction. You were not created to simply survive by relying on your own limited strength. You were never called to force outcomes or desperately chase after validation from others. Your primary assignment was always obedience to God's divine will. And now that you have aligned yourself with that calling, watch and observe what happens next. Doors that stubbornly refused to open before will begin to swing wide open. Not because you pushed and strived harder, but because you stopped pushing altogether. You allowed the unwavering will of God to carry you instead of foolishly trying to carry the will of God yourself. There is a unique kind of peace that can only be experienced after enduring the fierce storm of resistance. It is not loud or boisterous. It doesn't crave or need attention. It simply rests upon you, steadily and gently, like the morning dew. That profound peace is heaven's confirmation that you are indeed on the right path. The smile of God is not distant or far away. It's radiantly shining over you right now in this very moment. Listen closely, chosen one. Heaven does not celebrate achievement in the same way that earth does. It doesn't cheer for mere accumulation of possessions, status, or worldly success. Heaven rejoices over obedience. It wholeheartedly celebrates surrender. You did something that most people never do in their entire lives. You let go when it cost you everything you thought you had. And that singular act, that quiet, yet profound, yes, became a sound that reverberated through eternity. Some of you feel as though you have failed far too many times for God to ever smile upon you. But hear this truth. Failure was never and will never be final in the loving hands of grace. You mistakenly thought you were disqualified from the race. But heaven only saw a temporary delay. And today that delay has come to its definitive end. The divine smile shining over your life is not contingent upon your perfection or flawless performance. It is based on your posture, the position of your heart. God smiles when your heart genuinely says, "I'm yours, Lord. Do with me as you please." We are reminded through the inspired writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 25, verse 10. All the ways of the Lord are loving and faithful toward those who keep the demands of his covenant. This is precisely why heaven smiled upon you, because love and faithfulness met your obedience at the crossroads of your decision. Today, every angel assigned to your destiny is now moving in perfect synchronization with the promise that was just activated by your surrender. You didn't simply make a decision. You triggered a divine sequence of events. Chosen one, take a deep breath and allow that profound truth to settle deep within your spirit. You no longer walk under the heavy shadow of striving. You walk under the radiant smile of God. From this moment forward, things will not look the same as they once did. When you pray, heaven will answer you differently. When you move, peace will go before you, clearing the path. When you rest, the very presence of God will cover you like a warm, comforting blanket of light. Don't rush through this pivotal moment. Allow it to fully sink in. Heaven is not frowning at your past mistakes. It is rejoicing in your present moment. You are not forgotten. You are celebrated beyond measure. You are not abandoned. You are chosen and deeply loved. If this word resonates deeply within you, if your spirit recognizes the undeniable truth in it, then show heaven your agreement. Like this message as a sign. Share it generously so that others may feel what you have just felt, and comment 77 below as your prophetic act, your declaration to the universe that you have consciously chosen surrender over relentless struggle. Heaven has smiled upon you, chosen one, because you finally did this. There is something undeniably sacred about the heavy weight that you finally laid down at the altar. Chosen one, heaven has been watching you intently as you unclenched your fists and allowed what was never truly yours to slip away. It wasn't a sign of weakness. It was an act of profound worship. You may have mistakenly thought you were giving up, but in truth you were giving back to God what was rightfully his all along. Every burden that once pressed heavily on your chest was never meant to define who you are. It was meant to refine you, to purify you until you learned the transformative power of release. You see, God never designed your shoulders to carry the immense weight of burdens that only his capable hands can truly hold. Every sleepless night you endured, every moment you spent trying to fix what was clearly beyond your limited power, was slowly draining your strength and your very essence. You have been desperately trying to hold together things that heaven was already in the process of taking apart and dismantling. You didn't lose anything of true value. God deliberately removed it because his mercy and compassion sometimes manifest as subtraction in our lives. When you finally released that pain, that person, that difficult situation, you aligned yourself with the divine flow of the universe. The spiritual realm shifted dramatically because your act of release became heaven's long-awaited signal. You intentionally chose trust over the illusion of control. You chose peace over destructive pride. You finally said, "Lord, I simply can't do this anymore on my own." And heaven gently replied, "Good, now I can step in and take over." That's when everything truly started to change for the better. The weight you carried was never ordinary. It was attached to years of pent-up disappointment, constant rejection, and deep misunderstanding. You learned to smile bravely while secretly breaking inside, to serve diligently while silently bleeding, to love unconditionally while constantly being overlooked and ignored. But God was watching you the whole time, not with harsh judgment, but with overflowing compassion and empathy. He knew that when you finally laid down that heavy burden, the immense pressure that was crushing you would become the solid platform that elevates you to new heights. Chosen one, This is precisely why the release felt so incredibly heavy and significant, because you weren't just letting go of what hurt you. You were letting go of who you mistakenly thought you had to be in order to survive. You were releasing your reliance on false strength and self-sufficiency. Heaven smiled, not because you cried tears of pain, but because your tears were holy. Every single tear became a powerful testimony, meticulously written in invisible ink upon the eternal pages of eternity. When God looks at you now, He doesn't see your brokenness or imperfections. He sees your unwavering trust in Him. And trust is the purest form of worship that exists. You have been tirelessly trying to carry your calling on your own. But your calling was never meant for you to carry. It was always His divine calling entrusted to you. And now that you have released it back to Him, the anointing can flow freely through you once again. You will soon notice how remarkably different the atmosphere feels when the burden is no longer yours to carry. Peace will confidently walk with you into rooms where anxiety and fear used to dominate and control. Joy will quietly and gently take the place of sorrow and despair. You'll laugh again, not because everything in your life is now perfect, but because your soul is finally light enough to breathe freely and deeply. The enemy fought so fiercely to keep you bound to that heavy weight because he knew the incredible freedom that was waiting for you on the other side of your surrender. The very moment you dropped what was draining you, your vision cleared, and you could finally see again, not through the thick fog of fear, but through the clear and unwavering eyes of faith. And heaven smiled because the real you, the authentic you, began to rise and shine brightly. There is a distinct sound in heaven that only plays when one of God's chosen releases a burden and surrenders completely. It is the resounding sound of chains falling to the ground, shattering into pieces. It is the echoing sound of wings unfolding and expanding to take flight. You have stepped boldly into that powerful sound. You have entered into the harmonious rhythm of heaven's promised rest. You may be wondering what happens next on your journey. The answer is peace beyond comprehension. Not the kind of superficial peace that depends on understanding every detail, but the profound kind of peace that surpasses all understanding. The unwavering peace that doesn't need a logical explanation because it knows with certainty who holds your future and who holds tomorrow. Heaven speaks clearly through the timeless words in Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. The Lord Himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. That is the unbreakable promise that surrounds your release and your future. You didn't just let go of something. You made intentional room for something far greater. And what's coming to fill that space is not loss or emptiness, but abundant life. The very absence that you feared will soon be overflowing with divine presence. Chosen one, rest confidently in that profound truth. You have not failed in any way. You have been refined and purified. You are not behind in your journey. You are being perfectly aligned with your divine purpose. The weight you laid down was never meant for you to keep. It was simply a test of your faith and endurance. And you passed the test with flying colors. Heaven smiled, not because you proved yourself to be strong and resilient, but because you finally stopped pretending to be something you're not. Now move lightly and freely. Speak softly and kindly. Love unconditionally and generously. You no longer carry the weight of what once buried you. You walk forward as one who is unburdened and free, guided by the one who goes before you, leading the way. And every step you take from here on out is lighter and more joyful because it is no longer solely yours to carry. It is His completely and utterly. Chosen one, when heaven took notice of your surrender, everything around you began to shift and realign. What seemed still and stagnant in the natural realm started to move in the unseen realm. You may not have heard any trumpets or seen any flashes of light, but heaven noticed the very moment your heart turned toward surrender. When you whispered that small yet powerful prayer of surrender, the spiritual world roared in resounding recognition. Angels marked that hour on their celestial calendars, and your name was spoken with reverence among the faithful. You must understand that heaven is not silent toward you. You have walked through seasons that felt like abandonment, but silence was never absence. It was purposeful preparation for what's to come. Heaven patiently waits for obedience, and when it finally finds it, it celebrates loudly and enthusiastically. You didn't need applause from other people. You already had the ultimate affirmation from the throne of heaven. Every unseen yes that you have spoken to God has echoed throughout eternity. Somewhere between your pain and your unwavering persistence, God's loving eyes were fixed intently upon you. There are billions of people who breathe on this earth, but not all are watched with such intentional care and devotion. You are not simply one among the masses. You are marked and set apart among the precious few. Heaven noticed when you extended forgiveness without demanding an apology, when you loved without expecting anything in return, when you chose to stay loyal even when it would have been far easier to simply walk away. These were the secret sacrifices that made the heavens rejoice and celebrate. The spiritual realm celebrates not perfection, which is unattainable, but perseverance in the face of adversity. You've been tested repeatedly, misunderstood by many, stretched beyond your limits, and still you didn't break. Heaven meticulously recorded each of those significant moments. You may have felt unseen and overlooked by other people, but your unwavering obedience lit up the heavens like a brilliant fire in the darkness. Angels were assigned to protect you, not because you shouted loud, boastful prayers, but because you whispered faithful and heartfelt prayers when no one else was watching. It's easy to mistakenly believe that heaven only notices grand miracles and achievements. But heaven wholeheartedly celebrates the often unseen process of growth. Every inch you've grown in faith was witnessed and celebrated. Every temptation you overcame, every battle you intentionally chose to walk away from, those are the true victories that draw heaven's undivided attention. And now, the detailed record of your perseverance stands as a powerful testimony before God's throne. When heaven takes notice of your unwavering faith, favor begins to find you in unexpected and miraculous ways. The very same places and people that ignored you will soon recognize you and treat you with respect. Not because of your strength or worldly accomplishments, but because of your humble surrender to God's will. The radiant light that's shining upon you isn't self-made. It's heaven's direct response to your remarkable endurance. There's a holy ripple effect happening now in the spiritual realm. Your quiet obedience is stirring miracles for those who are closely connected to you. The very people who once doubted your faith will soon witness its undeniable fruit in your life. Heaven's notice isn't just a silent nod of approval. It's a resounding divine declaration. This one belongs to me, and I will fiercely protect and defend them. End of as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. Luke 15, verse 10 declares, "There is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." End of chosen one. Pause and allow that profound truth to fully sink in. Heaven throws an extravagant celebration when even one single soul turns toward repentance. Imagine the glorious sound when you, His chosen one, decided to completely align your life with His perfect will. The angels danced and rejoiced, not because of your perfection, but because of your bold and transformative decision. Heaven's recognition of you isn't temporary or fleeting. It's eternal and lasting. Once you are marked by heaven, you remain marked forever. That's precisely why certain doors now open effortlessly for you. It's not mere coincidence. It's heaven's undeniable confirmation of your chosen status. The favor that now follows you wherever you go is not random or accidental. It's royal favor, bestowed upon you by the King of Kings. You have been carefully seen and recognized by the King, and He proudly calls you His own beloved child. You may feel small and insignificant in your own eyes, but heaven calls you mighty and courageous. Don't underestimate the immense weight and significance of being noticed by God Himself. When heaven acknowledges you, no amount of earthly rejection or criticism can diminish your inherent worth or value. Every no you faced from other people was simply a redirection toward a divine yes from God. End quote. Heaven noticed your unwavering persistence in prayer when the answers were delayed. Heaven noticed your genuine gratitude even in times of scarcity. Heaven noticed your heartfelt worship even when your heart was breaking into a million pieces. None of it went unseen or unnoticed. Every act of faith has been meticulously woven into a beautiful tapestry of divine remembrance. And now, heaven's loving eyes are upon you, not to judge or condemn, but to rejoice and celebrate. Chosen one, If your spirit recognizes this profound truth, type, "Heaven sees me," in the comments below. Not as a mere ritual or empty gesture, but as a sincere declaration of your unwavering faith. Because every single time you affirm what heaven already knows to be true, you strengthen your alignment with divine reality. When you write those words, you're not just typing random letters. You're proclaiming your true identity as a beloved child of God. You're boldly saying, "I believe that I am seen, known, and deeply loved by God Himself. All the eyes of heaven have not overlooked you or forgotten you. Your prayers are not wasted or ineffective. Your tears are not forgotten or ignored. You are not hidden away in obscurity. You are being highlighted and celebrated by the entire host of heaven. The grand celebration has already begun in the unseen realm. And soon, what heaven knows to be true will manifest powerfully in your physical reality. Lift your head high, chosen one. Heaven sees you, and that one undeniable truth changes everything. Chosen one, before the breakthrough, there was the breaking. You know that feeling well. The quiet pain that resided beneath every prayer you uttered. The long, dark nights when you wondered if God had turned His back on you and walked away. Those moments didn't destroy you. They transformed you into the person you are today. What tried so desperately to break you was only preparing the fertile soil for the seed of your obedience to take deep root. Heaven never wastes a single wound. Every ache, every disappointment, every unanswered question. It all carried a divine purpose that you couldn't yet fully grasp. You walked bravely through fiery trials that others could not have possibly survived. Some people laughed at your unwavering persistence. Others foolishly called your faith naive and foolish. They saw only the cracks and imperfections, but they couldn't possibly see the unbreakable covenant you had with God. You were not being punished or abandoned. You were being purified and refined like precious gold. The breaking was heaven's intentional way of stripping away everything that could not possibly carry the weight of your extraordinary calling. It was not cruelty or malice. It was precise calibration and alignment. There were days when you felt as if your fervent prayers were falling on deaf ears and echoing into nothingness. But heaven was not ignoring you. God was watching intently to see what would remain when everything else was stripped away. Would you still trust in Him even when the blessings stopped flowing freely? Would you still praise His holy name even when your hands were completely empty? You did, and that's precisely why you're still standing strong and unshakable right now. Chosen one, the breaking did not come to kill you or destroy you. It came to reveal the true you, the strong and resilient person you were always meant to be. You had to be crushed so that the precious oil could flow freely. Every great purpose in life is birthed in private pain and suffering. What you endured was not evidence of God's absence. It was undeniable evidence of your anointing and divine calling. The enemy tried relentlessly to convince you that you were being abandoned and forgotten. But you were actually being anointed through affliction and hardship. Do you vividly remember those lonely seasons when you felt invisible, unheard, and unwanted by the world? Heaven was silent, not because it was absent or uncaring, but because it was actively working behind the scenes on your behalf. You were being stretched far beyond human comfort and capacity so that you could learn to depend solely on divine strength and grace. You had to learn that mere survival was not your ultimate destiny. You were created and destined to overcome every obstacle that comes your way. Each battle was absolutely necessary to your growth. You were not being punished or abandoned. You were being purified and refined like precious gold. The breaking was heaven's intentional way of stripping away everything that could not possibly carry the weight of your extraordinary calling. It was not cruelty or malice. It was precise calibration and alignment. There were days when you felt as if your fervent prayers were falling on deaf ears and echoing into nothingness. But heaven was not ignoring you. God was watching intently to see what would remain when everything else was stripped away. Would you still trust in Him even when the blessings stopped flowing freely? Would you still praise His holy name even when your hands were completely empty? You did, and that's precisely why you're still standing strong and unshakable right now. Chosen one, the breaking did not come to kill you or destroy you. It came to reveal the true you, the strong and resilient person you were always meant to be. You had to be crushed so that the precious oil could flow freely. Every great purpose in life is birthed in private pain and suffering. What you endured was not evidence of God's absence. It was undeniable evidence of your anointing and divine calling. The enemy tried relentlessly to convince you that you were being abandoned and forgotten. But you were actually being anointed through affliction and hardship. Do you vividly remember those lonely seasons when you felt invisible, unheard, and unwanted by the world? Heaven was silent, not because it was absent or uncaring, but because it was actively working behind the scenes on your behalf. You were being stretched far beyond human comfort and capacity so that you could learn to depend solely on divine strength and grace. You had to learn that mere survival was not your ultimate destiny. You were created and destined to overcome every obstacle that comes your way. Each battle was absolutely necessary to your growth. Every wound became a door through which profound wisdom entered your life. You began to see that what you had lost along the way was not wasted or meaningless. It was traded for clarity and a deeper understanding of God's purpose. Pain became your wise tutor, teaching you what true peace really means. Loneliness became your sacred sanctuary, showing you who God really is when everything else in your life fades away. Now, as you look back on your journey, you can begin to clearly see the unmistakable fingerprints of God, even in the hardest and most painful chapters of your life. The very storm that threatened to drown you is the same storm that taught you how to walk on water with unwavering faith. You learned that true faith isn't proven in times of comfort and ease. It's proven in the midst of chaos and uncertainty. You discovered a hidden strength within yourself that you didn't even know existed until you had no other choice but to stand firm. You were chosen for this specific kind of refining process because your destiny required unparalleled endurance and resilience. There are certain powerful mantles that simply cannot be carried by those who have not been tested and tried. You have been forged in hidden fires of adversity, and heaven has recorded every single cry for help. Even when you thought your desperate prayers were lost in the wind, angels were diligently collecting each and every heartfelt word. Now that the difficult season of breaking is finally passing, you can finally see and understand why it had to be so intense and overwhelming. God was not intentionally breaking you apart. He was purposefully breaking you open to receive something far greater. There's a distinct difference between the two. When something breaks apart, it's ruined and irreparable. When something breaks open, it's ready to be filled with something new and glorious. You have been opened up to receive even greater glory and purpose. The Word of God declares powerfully in the book of Psalms, chapter 126, verse 5, "Those who sow in tears shall reap with shouts of joy. Oh, every single tear you shed was a precious seed, and heaven never forgets its abundant harvest. You cried, but you also planted seeds of faith. You suffered, but you also sowed seeds of hope. And now, the appointed time for reaping is rapidly approaching. Joy is not a distant dream that will never be realized. It is the next exciting season of your life. Chosen one, what almost broke you completely actually built you into the strong and resilient person you are today. You now walk with an authority that cannot be taught in any classroom. It can only be earned through unwavering endurance and perseverance. You carry a deep empathy that was birthed from your own pain. You possess a genuine compassion that was born out of your understanding of suffering. These remarkable qualities make you dangerous to the forces of darkness because you no longer operate from a place of fear and insecurity, but from a place of unwavering faith and confidence in God. Your scars are not signs of defeat or failure. They are undeniable proof of your survival and resilience. Heaven smiles when it sees them because they tell a powerful story of unwavering trust in the face of adversity. You are living proof that broken things can still carry immense glory, and that wounded hearts can still host divine fire. Now, when storms inevitably come your way, you will no longer panic or despair. You've seen the worst that life has to offer, and you've personally witnessed God's unwavering hand in the midst of it all. Your faith is no longer fragile and easily shaken. It's fortified and unshakable, and though you may still face new battles and challenges, none will break you as they did before. For you now know the sacred secret. Every breaking is a prelude to a new birthing. Heaven watched you crawl bravely through seasons that others would have abandoned in despair. The Father saw you bleeding and still believing. That is precisely why the next chapter of your life will not be marked by sorrow and regret, but by unwavering strength and resilience. You have successfully passed through the breaking process, and now you will rise in unparalleled beauty and glory. Chosen one. There were moments in your journey when heaven seemed unusually quiet, so quiet that it felt like even the wind held its breath in anticipation. You prayed fervently, you waited patiently, and the deafening silence stretched on and on like an endless night. But listen carefully to this profound truth. Silence is not absence. The Father's loving smile often hides behind a veil of stillness. Just as the sun remains constant even when clouds obscure it, so did God's unwavering favor remain in your life even when his voice seemed distant and far away. You didn't realize it at the time, but heaven was smiling upon you even while you waited patiently. The silence was not a sign of rejection or disapproval. It was a deliberate orchestration of events. The skilled potter does not speak while he is meticulously shaping the clay. He works in complete silence, pressing and molding with the utmost care and precision. That's precisely what God was doing with you during those silent seasons. Every unanswered prayer was a gentle touch from his loving hand. Every delay was a divinely inspired design. God was not ignoring you or overlooking your needs. He was carefully sculpting something sacred and beautiful out of your surrender and obedience. The prolonged waiting made you wiser and more discerning. You began to see that his smile isn't always loud and boisterous. It's often quiet, patient, steady, and enduring. When you were questioning your inherent worth, he was watching you with tenderness and compassion. When you were convinced that you had been forgotten and overlooked, he was preparing your grand stage for your eventual rise. Like a breathtaking sunrise hidden just behind the horizon, his radiant glory was steadily on its way. You just hadn't seen the light break through the darkness yet. Chosen one, think of the caterpillar patiently waiting in its cocoon. It appears still and lifeless, but within that silent darkness, a remarkable transformation is silently taking place. The intense struggle in the dark is absolutely necessary for its beautiful wings to fully form. That was your silent season. God's loving smile was always there, unseen by human eyes but constant and unwavering, shaping strength and resilience within you for the incredible flight ahead. There's a profound reason why heaven often speaks through stillness and silence. Words comfort the mind, but silence matures the soul and spirit. In that quiet and secluded place, God trained your spirit to hear gentle whispers instead of deafening thunder, to trust without needing visible proof or reassurance. And when you finally emerged victoriously from that silent season, heaven smiled with pride because you had learned to listen differently with your heart and not just your ears. We are reminded through the timeless writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 46, verse 10. Be still, and know that I am God. That verse isn't just a simple command. It's a warm invitation to draw closer to God. Be still because frantic striving and relentless effort won't open the doors that need to be opened in your life. Surrender and obedience will. Be still because God's perfect timing is always a masterpiece, not a regrettable mistake. Be still because heaven is never late or negligent. It's layered and intentional. What looks delayed and disappointing to you is actually divine alignment unfolding perfectly on schedule. Sometimes, God's apparent silence is simply the sound of him moving pieces behind the scenes that you cannot possibly see or comprehend. Like a master composer meticulously tuning an unseen orchestra, he arranges every single note of your unique story until it forms a breathtaking melody of redemption and grace. When the music finally plays, you'll fully understand why the waiting took so long. And when that pivotal moment finally arrives, when light finally breaks through the darkness, and your heart feels the warm embrace of his loving smile once again, remember the invaluable lessons that the silence taught you. That true faith doesn't grow in the midst of loud noise and distractions, but in the deep stillness of unwavering trust in God. You have learned to recognize the smile of God, not by physical sight, but by the gentle stillness and peace in your spirit. That is true maturity. That is genuine growth. And heaven wholeheartedly celebrates it. Chosen one, If this word has touched something deep within your soul, take a moment, not out of obligation, but out of sincere connection, to pass the light forward to others who need it. When you like this message, you're not just mindlessly reacting. You're saying a heartfelt amen in the digital realm. When you share it generously, you become a divine messenger, allowing someone else to feel and understand what you now know to be true. That silence is not punishment but purposeful preparation for greater things to come. And if your heart feels aligned with what heaven is communicating here, subscribe to this channel. Not just to hear more words, but to stay anchored in the harmonious rhythm of divine revelation. This sacred space was intentionally created to remind precious souls like yours that they are constantly seen, carefully shaped, and lovingly smiled upon by heaven itself. The undeniable truth is that you are an integral part of a divine story that deserves to be told and shared. Your unique journey, your patient waiting, your quiet endurance, all of it matters immensely. There is someone out there who is currently in their own silent season, wondering if God has forgotten them. You can be the gentle whisper that reassures them. Hold on. He's still smiling upon you. Don't give up just yet. End quote. So, let this powerful moment not just pass through you without leaving a lasting impact. Let it multiply through you as you share it with others. Every time you pass on a spark of light, heaven sees it and celebrates it. Every act of kindness, every shared message of hope, it all adds to the beautiful symphony of grace that surrounds and uplifts this world. The smile of God over your life is not fading away. It's deepening and becoming more radiant with each passing day. Every second of silence you endured was like an artist's careful brushstroke on a masterpiece. Every tear you shed was like a poignant note in heaven's heartfelt song. And now that you can finally hear it clearly, breathe it in deeply, and believe it with all your heart. Know this profound truth. The silence was never empty or meaningless. It was sacred and purposeful. Heaven smiled through the quiet stillness. And now, that radiant smile shines brightly through you, chosen one. There was a pivotal moment when everything changed dramatically. Though the world around you barely took notice, it wasn't a grand announcement or a burst of thunder from the sky. It was quiet, subtle, and almost invisible to the naked eye. Yet, heaven leaned in when you finally took that leap of faith. It wasn't just another decision. It was the decision heaven had been waiting for. That seemingly small act, that simple yes you whispered with trembling faith, sent ripples throughout eternity. You might have thought it was insignificant, or doubted whether it even mattered. But obedience always moves heaven, no matter how small it might seem here on earth. Every act of faith, every time you extend forgiveness, every instance of obedience, every moment you trust even when you don't fully understand, becomes a key in the spiritual realm. You turned that key, and the lock of delay finally gave way. God had been preparing you for that very moment long before you even realized it. Every detour you faced, every disappointment you endured, every door that slammed shut in your face, was all aligning you, step by step, with this one pivotal moment. You see, obedience isn't always about understanding why. It's about trusting who. You stepped forward without seeing the complete path ahead, and heaven responded by clearing the fog that clouded your vision. You didn't wait for applause or demand proof. You simply obeyed. And heaven smiled because obedience is the purest expression of love. You proved that your faith isn't rooted in outcomes, but in your relationship with God. When you moved, heaven moved right along with you. When you said yes, angels were immediately dispatched. When you acted in faith, doors began to shift in your favor. That single step wasn't just an action, it was a declaration. You declared that God is worthy of your trust, even when the details don't make sense. You declared that your future belongs to Him, not to fear. And heaven heard your declaration loud and clear. There's something incredibly powerful about obedience. It carries a sound, even if you didn't hear it with your physical ears. Heaven heard it. That sound traveled throughout the spiritual atmosphere, announcing your alignment with God's will. The heavens recognized it as the sound of faith, and the earth will soon echo with its results. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. That verse is your confirmation. Chosen one, what you did, what felt small, unnoticed, unseen, was not in vain. Heaven saw it, heaven recorded it, and heaven will reward it. The seed you planted through obedience has already begun to sprout in places your eyes haven't reached yet. You may not see fruit immediately, but it's growing beneath the surface, just like a seed buried in the soil. Your obedience is germinating in secret, and soon, at just the right time, it will break through the ground, undeniable and radiant. God is faithful to multiply what you surrender to Him. The step you took has set a precedent for your future. You will no longer hesitate when heaven calls. You will no longer delay your destiny with doubt. This was your crossing point, the line between simply believing and truly becoming. The next seasons of your life will flow differently because obedience opened the gate. The enemy once tried to convince you that obedience was a form of loss, that following God meant missing out on something good. But you now see the truth. Obedience is gain. Every no you said to your flesh became a resounding yes to your future. Every time you walked away from comfort, you walked closer to your calling. Heaven celebrates not just your actions, but your alignment with God's will. You are now in rhythm with divine timing. The delays that once frustrated you will soon make perfect sense, for they prepared you to walk at the same pace as heaven. You didn't miss out on anything. You matured into it. Chosen one. If your heart bears witness to this word, type 888 in the comments below. The number 8 is the number of new beginnings, and your obedience has just birthed one. When you write it, you're not performing some empty ritual, you're declaring alignment. You're saying, I'm ready for the new thing that obedience has unlocked. Your small step triggered a spiritual shift that cannot be undone. You've proven that you're not ruled by fear, but by faith. And now, heaven's favor will follow you with unwavering precision. The next doors won't open by striving or struggling. They'll open in perfect sequence because you finally did what God asked you to do. The flow of His plan can now move unhindered. Heaven is proud of you. The Father smiles upon you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were willing. That's all He ever needed, your willingness. And because you gave it freely, everything changes from here on out. Chosen one, your obedience did not end with a single act. It began a chain reaction. The moment you said yes to God, heaven released movement into areas that had long been still. Your one choice became like a stone dropped into still waters, sending ripples of divine purpose outward, touching lives you may never even meet. What you did in secret is now echoing across generations. You see, obedience never stops with you. It travels through you. It becomes a living current of grace that flows beyond your lifetime. The step you took wasn't just for your own blessing. It was for others connected to your destiny. Heaven knew that your courage would create the space for someone else to believe again. You didn't just shift your own life, you shifted entire atmospheres. There are people right now feeling the tremors of your yes. They don't even know your name, but they'll feel the impact. Some will find courage because you chose obedience over fear. Others will encounter freedom because you refused to remain silent. Heaven's economy never wastes obedience. It multiplies it. When Abraham obeyed the voice of God, he had no idea that entire nations would be blessed through his faith. When Esther stepped forward in trembling courage, she didn't realize that her act would preserve generations. You stand in that same lineage, the ones who obey without seeing, the ones who trust without knowing the end. Heaven looks at you and calls you by that same name, faithful. You may wonder why the effects of your obedience sometimes feel slow in coming. It's because heaven doesn't move on earthly timelines. The ripples are still moving outward, crossing into territories beyond your reach. Your obedience has activated divine order, and heaven is ensuring that everything attached to your yes finds its proper alignment. Chosen one, understand this truth. What flows from you now carries authority. Your words carry weight because they are backed by obedience. Your prayers pierce the atmosphere differently because they rise from a yielded heart. The heavens respond not just to what you say, but to who you've become, a vessel in harmony with divine will. Your obedience is building invisible bridges somewhere. Someone struggling in silence will walk across those bridges because you were willing to obey first. Your yes becomes a pathway that others can follow. The world needs light-bearers who move beyond the realm of comfort, and heaven saw that in you. There is also another layer to this ripple effect. The blessing that comes back to you. Obedience doesn't just bless others. It circles back with increase. You sowed trust, and heaven will return it as favor. You gave faith, and heaven will return it as fullness. You stepped forward with trembling hands, and God will steady those same hands with purpose and power. Sometimes you won't even recognize how far your ripple has gone until much later. You'll meet someone who says, "Because of what you did, I found hope again." Or you'll walk into a new season and realize that doors are opening in places where your faith once prayed. That's the harvest of obedience. It works quietly, but it never stops working, just as it is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 25. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. You vowed. You refreshed heaven's heart with your obedience. And now heaven refreshes yours in return. In the same way that you poured out faith in uncertainty, heaven now pours back abundance in unseen ways. You may not yet feel it fully, but the tide has already turned. Your ripple has entered divine circulation. The things that once resisted you now recognize your authority, because obedience aligns you with heaven's rhythm. Creation itself begins to cooperate with your destiny. Where there was resistance, now there will be release. Where there was delay, now there will be divine acceleration. Chosen one, this is why the process mattered so much, because only the surrendered can carry the ripple of heaven without breaking under its weight. God had to build depth within you before releasing width around you. He had to ensure that your foundation was obedience, not pride, so that the blessing could multiply without distortion. Now the ripple continues. It moves through your family line, rewriting old stories. It moves through your workplace, carrying peace where chaos used to reign. It moves through your words, touching hearts that have forgotten how to hope. Every time you remain faithful, the ripple expands. You have become a living river of divine purpose, no longer stagnant, no longer trapped. Your obedience opened the dam, and now heaven's flow will never cease. The waters of grace that began with your yes will keep moving long after this season passes. And when you finally look back, you'll see what heaven saw all along. A pattern of faith woven through every decision, every act of courage, every step of trust. You'll understand that nothing you did for God was ever wasted. Every ripple was recorded, and every act of faith became part of heaven's great design. Heaven smiled, not just because you obeyed, but because your obedience continues to breathe life into the world. The ripple has begun, and it will never end. Chosen one, the moment you chose obedience over comfort, something powerful happened in the spirit realm that wasn't visible to the natural eye. But heaven saw it. The instant where unseen chains began to break. The atmosphere around your destiny shifted. Every shackle that once held your progress hostage started to tremble at the sound of your surrender. Because where obedience stands, bondage cannot remain. For years, the enemy tried to convince you that freedom would come from doing things your own way. He whispered lies into your heart. If you let go, you'll lose everything. But heaven always knew the opposite was true. Your letting go was the key to your liberation. You were never meant to live confined by fear or trapped by the weight of yesterday. You were always meant to walk in divine liberty. When you finally made that decision, when you said, "God, I'll obey, even if it costs me everything," every spiritual chain that had attached itself to your soul began to fall away. Fear lost its grip. Guilt began to melt under the fire of grace. The invisible walls that kept you small started to crumble. You didn't just break free, heaven broke through. Freedom is not just the absence of chains, it's the presence of purpose, and that's exactly what you've stepped into. What once bound your mind, your emotions, your confidence, now lies shattered at your feet. You are not the same person who walked into this battle. You emerged purified, lighter, crowned with clarity. This is what the enemy never wanted you to see. that the moment you surrendered, you became unstoppable. The devil cannot hold what belongs to obedience. He can threaten, he can delay, but he cannot destroy what God has already liberated. The same hand that led you through the fire has also written your victory in heaven's book. Chosen one, sometimes freedom feels strange at first when you've lived bound for so long. Liberty can even be uncomfortable. The silence where fear used to scream can almost feel empty. But that emptiness is not loss. It's space. God has cleared the clutter to make room for new glory. The chains fell not just so you could walk, but so you could run. Remember the prison of thoughts that used to confine you, the endless cycle of worry, shame, and doubt? They were never your home, they were a battlefield. And now that heaven has claimed the victory, you can finally breathe in peace. The air of freedom might feel unfamiliar, but it's the very atmosphere you were born for, where the Spirit of God moves. Captivity cannot remain. It's not possible. The fire of divine presence consumes bondage like the morning light consumes shadows. Every step you take now is a declaration that freedom is your inheritance. The blood of the Lamb purchased it long before your struggle even began, and obedience simply unlocked what grace had already promised. The Apostle wrote in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 17, "Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." Let that be the truth governing your new reality. The Spirit of the Lord is with you, therefore so is freedom. Every time you worship, the atmosphere shifts. Every time you pray, light expands. You are no longer a captive trying to escape. You are a victor walking in release. Heaven celebrates this moment, not because it's the end, but because it's a beginning. Freedom is not a single event. It's a continuous unfolding. Each day you choose obedience, more chains dissolve. Each time you forgive, another lock falls away. Each time you trust, another gate opens wider. Don't be surprised when people no longer recognize you. Freedom changes the posture of your soul. The way you speak, the way you move, the way you discern things, it all carries the fragrance of liberty. You used to shrink to make others comfortable, but now you stand tall, radiant, unapologetically chosen. You are no longer a reflection of your wounds. You are a reflection of your deliverance. The enemy may still whisper reminders of your past, but they hold no power now. His words echo in an empty cell. You've already walked out. The door is open, the chains are broken, and the key is in your hand. All that remains is to keep walking forward. Chosen one, freedom is your permanent state now. The breaking has happened. The release has been declared, and heaven's seal rests upon you. What once held you cannot hold you again. What once silenced you cannot mute you again. You have stepped into the wide open space of grace, and there is no going back. Heaven smiled when the chains fell because in that moment, the Father saw his child rise, not as a captive, but as a conqueror. Chosen one, when heaven rejoices, creation itself begins to vibrate with holy sound. There is laughter in the divine realm, not mockery, but delight. God's joy is not passive. It is living, breathing, contagious. When you chose surrender, when your obedience aligned perfectly with divine timing, heaven erupted in song. The joy of the Father is unlike anything the human heart can fully comprehend. It is not a quiet smile. It is a thunderous celebration, a wave of glory that ripples across eternity. You may imagine heaven's joy as a soft light or a gentle peace, but it is far more powerful than that. When God rejoices, galaxies expand. His delight releases energy into the universe, for all creation was designed to respond to his emotion, and recently that joy was about you. For years you walked through hardship, unaware that heaven was watching your endurance with affection. Every time you chose love over bitterness, mercy over judgment, patience over pride, God smiled. Every time you whispered a prayer instead of giving up, heaven's laughter filled the corridors of glory. You thought your moments of faith were small, but in heaven they were monumental. You may have imagined God as distant, solemn, always judging, but his very nature is joy. Scripture says, "The joy of the Lord is your strength," and that joy is active right now. Heaven doesn't rejoice in your pain, but in your perseverance. The Father delights not in your perfection, but in your posture, your heart turned toward him. That's what sparked the celebration. The prophet Zephaniah painted the picture clearly. God rejoices over his people with singing. Can you even fathom that? The same voice that spoke the stars into being now sings over you. His song carries healing, his melody carries meaning. Heaven's choir joins in, echoing the theme of your redemption. You have become a living lyric in God's song of love. It is written in the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 17. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In his love he will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. That verse is not just a metaphor. It's a reality. Heaven is currently rejoicing over your transformation. The angels that once guarded your path are now dancing in victory, because what the enemy meant for destruction became your defining moment of destiny. Chosen one, imagine heaven's laughter as rainfall, soft yet unstoppable. It covers the dry places of your soul, bringing life where there once was only despair. You can feel it even now, that quiet gladness stirring in your heart. That's heaven's joy being mirrored inside you. When God rejoices, his people feel peace. When God laughs, his chosen find rest. Heaven's joy has also begun to attract favor towards you. Where there was resistance, there is now recognition. The same doors that once remained firmly closed are beginning to move, not because of your own effort, but because divine favor is drawn to divine joy. You are walking under the sound of God's laughter, and that sound disarms darkness. It's no coincidence that since your surrender, peace has begun to replace panic, opportunities have begun to whisper your name, and grace seems to appear in places that used to feel hostile. Joy is heaven's way of saying, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have made the Father proud." This is why the enemy fought so hard to keep you bound in guilt, because guilt silences joy. But now that the chains are gone, your spirit can dance again. You don't need to understand every detail of what's ahead. Just live in the rhythm of divine joy. You were never meant to walk heavy. You were meant to walk radiant. Chosen one, joy is your inheritance. The same joy that raised Jesus from the grave is now awakening your spirit. You've entered the part of your story where mourning ends and music begins. You'll find yourself smiling for no reason, laughing without explanation, feeling peace in places that once carried only pain. That's not just a coincidence. It's confirmation. Heaven's laughter has entered your atmosphere. If your heart feels this truth stirring within you, type, "God delights in me" below. Let that declaration be your agreement with heaven's song. When you write those words, you're not just commenting, you're echoing the chorus of eternity. You're saying, "I believe the Father's joy includes me." Every letter you type becomes a note in that divine melody, joining heaven's laughter with your own voice. Chosen one, never again see yourself as a disappointment to heaven. You are a delight, a reason for joy in the heart of your Creator. The Father smiles, not because of what you've done perfectly, but because you've chosen to return to him completely. Heaven laughs in triumph, angels rejoice, and grace overflows, because you, his chosen one, finally believe that his joy truly includes you. Chosen one, heaven has recognized your name. Your journey has not gone unnoticed. When you obeyed, when you trusted in the unseen, your name was spoken in the courts of heaven, declared before witnesses both celestial and eternal. You were recorded among those who did not retreat in fear, but advanced in faith. Every act of perseverance, every hidden victory, thus written in De Nomine, in God's name. You must understand this. Heaven keeps records not of possessions or achievements, but of obedience. It remembers faith, humility, and love. When your heart said yes while trembling, when you showed kindness while wounded, heaven took note. That's why you are now walking under a new measure of recognition. You are known not just by name but by essence. There are scrolls in heaven filled with stories of those who refused to bow to fear. Your name has been added among them. When heaven recognizes someone, the earth must eventually follow. That is why certain doors that once resisted you will begin to open without struggle. It's not luck, it's lineage. You belong to the record of the faithful. Chosen one, you have become like a lighthouse in the Spirit. Your obedience sends out beams of light that guide others through their storms. You may not see how far your glow reaches, but ships in the dark are steering toward your example. That is what heaven's recognition does. It transforms one person's endurance into another person's hope. You might ask, why me? Because God saw that your heart would hold the weight of His favor without pride. The recognition of heaven is not for status, but for stewardship. The light upon you is meant to illuminate others, not to glorify yourself. Every time you lift someone else, you magnify heaven's glory. Every word you speak in love adds brightness to your crown. The ancient words recorded in Revelation, chapter 3, verse 5, remind us, the one who is victorious will, like them, be dressed in white. I will never blot out their name from the book of life, but will acknowledge their name before my Father and His angels. Your name is acknowledged, chosen one. It is not merely known, it is celebrated. You stand clothed in the garments of grace, recognized before the throne as one who overcame. Heaven is not distant from your story, it is invested in it. And as heaven recognizes you, the world will begin to sense that recognition too. People will feel peace around you without knowing why. Doors will open that you didn't even knock on. Provision will appear before you even ask, because recognition carries reward, not as payment, but as partnership. God rewards what reflects His heart. You have been a mirror reflecting faith in the face of uncertainty. Now heaven mirrors that reflection back to you through favor. Every good thing that flows toward you now is not random. It's a response. Heaven always returns what it sees in obedience, multiplied and magnified. Chosen one, if this message has found your heart and spoken to the quiet corners of your spirit, pause for a moment, take a breath, and recognize how far you've come. You're not the same as when you started. You've grown, you've endured, you've matured. Heaven has seen it all. If your soul bears witness to these words, consider this simple act. Like this message, not as an algorithmic gesture, but as an act of gratitude. It's your way of saying, thank you, God, for remembering me. Every like becomes a light, signaling to others that heaven still sees and still rewards faith. And when you share this message, think of yourself as a river carrying living water downstream. You're not just spreading words, you're sending healing to someone's drought somewhere. Someone needs to know that their name is not forgotten in heaven's story, and your sharing can be the whisper that reminds them. To those who feel stirred to go deeper, to keep walking this path of faith together, I invite you to subscribe. This space is not just for messages. It's for movement. It's a gathering of the chosen, a sanctuary for hearts awakening to divine purpose. Stay connected, because heaven is still writing your next chapter. And for those whose hearts feel moved to donate, understand this. Giving is not just about money. It's about partnership. It's planting into the soil that has nourished your spirit. When you sow, turning messages into nourishment for the soul. Heaven multiplies that seed like rain returning to the clouds that birthed it. Your generosity doesn't vanish. It boomerangs back to you in blessings you never saw coming. Every little bit you contribute, big or small, helps spread this light even further. You become an integral part of heaven's distribution system, making sure that those still lost in the dark feel the warmth of divine truth. Chosen one, you are seen. You are valued beyond measure. You are recognized by heaven itself. And now, heaven is calling on you to reflect that same overflowing love outward, to be a mirror of grace, a vessel overflowing with hope, a carrier of the light that once carried you through your darkest hours. Let this profound truth settle deep within your heart. Your name isn't scribbled in pencil, destined to be erased. It's engraved in eternity, bold and beautiful, a testament to your unwavering spirit. The King himself breaks into a smile when he speaks your name. Heaven acknowledges you, and that recognition will keep opening doors you never even dreamed existed. Keep shining your light. Keep trusting in the divine plan. Keep giving because you are a vital part of heaven's grand, unfolding story. Chosen one, every single fire you've walked through wasn't a mistake. It wasn't meant to destroy you, not even for a second. It was meant to refine you, to burn away the impurities and leave behind the pure gold of your spirit. You might not have understood the searing heat while you were in the thick of it, but now you can look back and see how every spark, every flicker, served a purpose in your transformation. God allowed certain flames to touch you, not to scorch you, but to purify you from the inside out. And though it hurt, heaven saw the inherent beauty in your endurance, your refusal to give up. The refining fire is one of heaven's most profound mysteries. It's not a punishment, it's a preparation for what's to come. When gold is refined, it has to endure intense, almost unbearable heat until everything that isn't pure gold rises to the surface, ready to be skimmed away. That's precisely what has been happening to you. The situations that once felt absolutely unbearable were actually pulling out the impurities, the fear, the doubt, the self-reliance that was keeping you from fully embracing your potential, so that what remains within you is an unshakable faith, a rock-solid foundation. You've probably wondered, why me, Lord? Why so much pain for one heart to bear? But God knew the weight of the incredible purpose He placed inside you. The greater the destiny, the hotter the refining fire must be. You carry a light that needed to be tested by fire, proven to be unyielding, so that when the inevitable winds of adversity come again, it won't flicker and die out. It will stand strong, a beacon in the darkness. The refining process doesn't exactly look glorious while it's happening. More often than not, it looks and feels like a massive loss. You lose comfort, you lose control, and sometimes you even lose people you thought would be in your life forever. But what you gain in return is immeasurable clarity, strength, and depth that you never knew you possessed. You start to see the world through a different lens, to truly value what truly matters, the things that can't be taken away from you. The person you were before the fire simply couldn't carry the weight of what's coming next. That's why you had to change form, to be molded and shaped into something new. There were moments when you thought you'd reached your absolute breaking point. You cried out. You prayed with every fiber of your being. You begged for relief. And yet, the fire kept burning relentlessly. You might have thought heaven was being cruel, punishing you for some unknown transgression. But heaven was actually being incredibly careful, meticulously watching over you. The flame was measured perfectly, never too much, never too little. It was precisely calibrated to cleanse you without completely consuming you. And remember, you were never truly alone in the fire. The fourth figure was always there, standing right beside you, just as he was with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. The Word of God declares in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 3, He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver. Notice that crucial detail, he sits. The refiner doesn't just light the fire and walk away, leaving it unattended. He watches intently, eyes fixed on the silver, patiently waiting until his own reflection appears on its surface, clear and true. That's precisely what God was doing with you. The fire was never about punishment. It was about producing His reflection in your character, chosen one. You may carry scars from your journey, but now, they shine like the purest silver. The same flames that once caused you so much pain have also made you radiant, glowing from the inside out. The places that were once wounds have become windows through which His glory shines for all the world to see. The very pain that tried to silence you has actually become the platform for your purpose, the foundation upon which you will build your legacy. There's something undeniably different about those who've been through the fire and emerged victorious. They carry a calm authority, a holy stillness that speaks volumes without uttering a single word. They no longer chase after the fleeting things that others chase because they've seen what truly matters in the grand scheme of things. You've reached that sacred place, that point of no return. You no longer crave validation from the outside world. You crave His presence, His guidance, His unwavering love. You no longer chase after superficial success. You seek true significance, a purpose that resonates with your soul. That's what the fire taught you, to trade the temporary for the eternal, to let go of the things that fade and cling to the things that last. And now, the glow that surrounds you isn't from striving and pushing. It's from pure survival, from having overcome the odds and emerged stronger on the other side. You carry the unmistakable fragrance of refinement, the undeniable aura of someone who has walked through the flames and emerged golden, a testament to God's unwavering grace. Others can sense it, even if they can't quite explain it. You've become living proof that the fire can mold you, but it can't finish you. That pain can purify you without destroying you. There's a peace that comes after the fire, a deep and abiding peace that only the refined can truly understand. It's the peace of someone who has faced profound loss and still chooses gratitude, who has been broken into a million pieces but still believes in the power of hope. That's your testimony now, the story you will share with the world. You no longer need to prove your faith to anyone. It's etched into your very being, a permanent reminder of the trials you've overcome. Heaven smiles upon those who've endured the heat of the fire, because they've proven themselves trustworthy with the glory that follows. You are ready now, chosen one. The fire has done its work, and it has done it well. The impurities are gone, the gold remains, and heaven's reflection is crystal clear in your life. This is your refinement season coming to a close, a beautiful and triumphant end. The fire has subsided, and in its place stands someone stronger, purer, and infinitely wiser. You no longer fear the flame because you've learned that it's not your enemy. It's your elevator, lifting you higher and higher towards your divine purpose. Every degree of heat elevated you closer to heaven's plan for your life. You are no longer defined by what you lost in the fire, but by what survived it, what emerged from the ashes stronger and more resilient than ever before. And what survived is undeniably divine, a testament to God's unwavering love and faithfulness. Chosen one, the moment your obedience reached its full maturity, something shifted in the unseen realm. A prophetic turnaround, a divine reversal of fortune. The season of hiddenness that once wrapped around you like a heavy cloak has finally lifted. What was once covered, concealed from the world, is now being called forth, stepping into the light. For a long time, it felt like nothing was moving, like your prayers were hitting invisible walls, like heaven had gone silent and was no longer listening. But all along, things were shifting beneath the surface, preparing you, shaping you, and molding you for this divine unveiling. Heaven never forgets a promise. Delay was never denial. It was all part of the meticulously crafted design. The time of waiting shaped you, refined you, and strengthened you so that when this turnaround finally arrived, you would be ready not just to receive it with open arms, but to sustain it for the long haul. The doors that once resisted your every effort are now opening in sequence, perfectly timed with your growth and development. What once seemed irretrievably lost is returning to you, refined, multiplied, and completely transformed. The turnaround doesn't always come as a sudden flash of lightning, a dramatic and earth-shattering event. It often begins subtly, quietly, almost imperceptibly. Like the first light of dawn, it creeps into your life softly, gently bringing warmth and light to places where coldness and darkness have lingered for far too long. Opportunities begin to whisper your name, calling you to step into your destiny. Peace replaces the gnawing exhaustion that has been plaguing you for so long. You start to feel grace flowing freely again in places where stagnation used to suffocate your spirit, stifling your dreams. Heaven is rearranging things in your favor, piece by piece, quietly but powerfully. You might not notice it immediately, but everything is aligning perfectly according to His divine plan. The people who left your life had to go in order for the new ones to find you, the ones who will support you and encourage you on your journey. The closed doors made room for divine entrances, for opportunities you never could have imagined. The silence made way for clarity, for a deeper understanding of His will for your life. And now, heaven is declaring with resounding authority, it is time. Time for the promise to unfold. Time for the hidden seeds you've been nurturing in secret to finally bloom and blossom. As you step boldly into this turnaround, remember with every fiber of your being that it's not just luck, it's legacy. You've entered the portion of your story where the waiting finally ends and the grand revealing begins, where your dreams will finally take flight. In the same way that Joseph went from prison to palace virtually overnight, so too will your situation shift dramatically. But it won't catch you off guard because the wilderness has prepared you for the weight of the promise, for the responsibility that comes with fulfilling your destiny. The ancient words written in the letter to the Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, declare, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." No, chosen one, the proper time is here, right now, waiting for you to seize it. Heaven's clock has struck in your favor, signaling the start of a new season. Every good deed you've ever done, every faithful moment, every unseen act of love has matured into a bountiful harvest, overflowing with blessings. You are now walking into fields you once only dreamed about, lush and vibrant. Where you once sowed seeds with tears of hope and perseverance, you will now gather the harvest with uncontainable joy, celebrating the fulfillment of his promises. The prophetic turnaround is not just external, affecting your circumstances and opportunities. It's also internal, transforming you from the inside out. The fatigue that once clouded your heart is being replaced with a burning passion, a renewed sense of purpose. The doubt that whispered insidious lies in your ear is being silenced by unwavering certainty, a deep knowing that you are on the right path. You no longer wonder if you are chosen. You know it with every fiber of your being. You walk differently now, not from pride or arrogance, but from a profound sense of purpose, a deep understanding of your calling. Heaven has shifted the very atmosphere around you, creating an environment of abundance and favor. The obstacles that once intimidated you, looming large and insurmountable, are about to cooperate with your destiny, paving the way for your success. What resisted you will now resource you, providing the tools and support you need to thrive. What mocked you and belittled you will soon marvel at your achievements, witnessing the manifestation of God's grace in your life. This is the paradox of divine turnaround. God uses what opposed you to elevate you, to propel you to even greater heights than you ever thought possible. Chosen one, this is not just another season in the cycle of life. It is a divine transition, a pivotal moment in your journey. The version of you that entered the waiting room, weary and discouraged, is not the same one who is now stepping into fulfillment, confident and empowered. You have been refined, trained, and perfectly positioned for this very moment. And heaven delights in unveiling you, not for the sake of fame or recognition, but for the sake of function, for the purpose he has called you to fulfill. You are being placed precisely where your light will matter most, where you can make the greatest impact on the world. You may already feel the stirrings within you, the urge to move forward, to create something beautiful, to speak your truth, to step out in faith once again. Don't resist it. That's heaven signaling the shift, letting you know that it's time to move. You have been hidden for protection, shielded from harm during your season of preparation. But now, you will be revealed for purpose, stepping into the spotlight to fulfill your calling. You are no longer waiting idly on the sidelines. You are actively walking into what was prepared for you long ago, into the destiny that awaits you with open arms. Chosen one, if your spirit resonates with the stirring deep within, if you feel the truth of these words coursing through your veins, type 9999 below. It's the number of completion, the sign that a cycle has ended and a brand new one has begun. When you comment with that number, you're not just typing random digits. You're declaring alignment with heaven's plan. You're saying, Lord, I recognize my turnaround. I step into what you've prepared for me, trusting in your perfect timing. Heaven hears declarations of faith, and it responds with unwavering love. The prophetic turnaround responds to agreement every time you acknowledge it, every time you affirm your belief in his power. The shift deepens, becoming more pronounced and undeniable. The path clears before you, removing all obstacles in your way. And the promise quickens, manifesting in your life at an accelerated pace. You are not merely wishing for it, hoping it will happen someday. You are actively walking in it, experiencing the fulfillment of his promises in real time. Your turnaround is not coming. It has already begun. Heaven has flipped the script, rewriting your story in a way that will bring glory to his name. And now, the very chapters that once caused you so much pain and heartache will become powerful testimonies of purpose, inspiring others to overcome their own challenges. You are moving from obscurity to visibility, from delay to destiny, from hope deferred to promise fulfilled. And as heaven watches with bated breath, the Father smiles upon you, not because you have finally arrived at your destination, but because you endured the journey, because you refused to give up in the face of adversity, because you remained faithful even when you couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, chosen one. When light breaks through the darkness, it rarely does so quietly. There is always a sound, a tearing, a trembling, a shift in the atmosphere. Heaven's light doesn't ask permission from the shadows. It commands them to move, to step aside and make way for the glory of God to shine through. That is precisely what happened when you chose to obey His calling, when you surrendered your will to His divine plan. Your simple act of faith, your heartfelt yes to His purpose, became a torch in the unseen realm, igniting a fire that could never be extinguished. What once felt heavy and hopeless, shrouded in despair, began to glow with possibility, radiating with hope. You might not have realized it at the time, but the light inside you has been growing steadily, nurtured by faith and perseverance. It began as a tiny spark, small and fragile, hidden beneath layers of doubt and disappointment. But even the smallest spark, when protected by unwavering faith, has the potential to become a raging flame. And your flame has now become a beacon, a guiding light for others who are lost in the darkness, searching for hope. You no longer simply survive the darkness. You actively transform it, illuminating the path for those who are still stumbling in the shadows. The light you carry is not ordinary. It's not something you can manufacture or conjure up on your own. It's divine residue, the reflection of heaven's very presence within you, shining brightly for all the world to see. It carries the inherent power to expose lies, to break through confusion, to warm the cold hearts of others, melting away the ice that surrounds them. You've noticed it, haven't you? The way people feel a sense of peace when they're around you, a calming presence that washes over them. The way conversations shift when you speak from your spirit, when you share the wisdom and insights that God has given you. That's the unmistakable evidence of illumination, the undeniable proof that you are carrying His light. For so long, darkness tried to define your identity, to convince you that you were something less than what God created you to be. It told you that you were forgotten, that you were insignificant, that you were unworthy of love and belonging. But now, the light exposes those lies for what they truly are: empty echoes, devoid of any truth or substance. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. You are not insignificant. You are deeply significant, a vital part of His divine plan. You are not unworthy. You are anointed, set apart for a special purpose. The darkness was only loud and insistent because it feared what was being born inside you, the potential that was waiting to be unleashed. When heaven's light breaks through, it doesn't erase the night instantly, banishing the shadows in one fell swoop. It expands gradually, allowing your eyes to adjust to the brightness, to acclimate to the glory that is being revealed. God doesn't reveal everything at once because He wants you to grow into your glory, to mature into the person He has called you to be. The light you now carry is both a precious gift and a weighty responsibility. It calls you to walk with integrity, to live as one who reflects heaven's radiance in every thought, word, and deed. You are becoming a walking sunrise, bringing hope and joy to everyone you encounter. Everywhere you go, the atmosphere changes, shifting from darkness to light, from despair to hope, not because of what you say or do, but because of what you carry within you, the very presence of God. The presence of God within you is the same power that spoke light into existence at the beginning of time, the creative force that shaped the universe. It doesn't need to strive or struggle to shine. It simply is, radiating effortlessly. The darkness around you cannot extinguish it, no matter how hard it tries. It may attempt to dim it through distraction, fear, or weariness, but light cannot be overpowered by what it was designed to defeat. Every challenge you've faced has only made your glow stronger, more radiant and resilient. Every attack that tried to silence you has instead amplified your clarity, sharpening your focus and intensifying your purpose. That is the profound mystery of divine radiance. Pressure doesn't crush it. It concentrates it, making it even more powerful. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 5, reminds us, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Oh, that verse isn't just poetry. It's prophecy, a foreshadowing of your very life. You are living proof that no darkness, no betrayal, no failure, no trauma can ever extinguish what God Himself ignited within you. You were never meant to fit in the shadows, to shrink back and hide your light. You were destined to reveal the light, to shine brightly for all the world to see. You've noticed how your perception has changed, haven't you? Things that once attracted you, things that once seemed appealing, no longer hold any allure. You can sense darkness now, not to fear it or run away from it, but to bring light to it, to offer hope and healing to those who are trapped within it. God has refined your discernment, sharpening your senses so that you can distinguish between truth and deception. He trusts your illumination, knowing that you will use your light to guide others towards Him. You carry His torch into places that others avoid, into the darkest corners of the world. That's why the battles you've faced have felt so personal, so intense. The darkness recognized you before you even recognized yourself, sensing the threat you posed to its reign. Chosen one, understand this deeply. Light is not merely for display, a pretty ornament to be admired. It's for direction, a guiding beacon that shows the way for those who are still wandering aimlessly, lost in the darkness. You are not called to shine so that others can applaud you, showering you with praise and admiration. You are called to guide so that others can find their way home, to the loving embrace of their Heavenly Father. Your life is a living signpost, pointing upward towards heaven. You've become the embodiment of grace, radiating divine love and compassion. The evidence that God still transforms dust into destiny, that He can take the broken pieces of our lives and create something beautiful and whole. The more you surrender to His will, the brighter you become, allowing His light to shine through you unhindered. And that brightness will inevitably attract both those who are hungry for hope, those who are desperately seeking a way out of the darkness, and those who are uncomfortable with the truth, those who prefer to remain in the shadows. But remember, even when moths gather near, drawn to the flame, stars never stop shining. The world will feel your light long before it understands it, before it can fully grasp the source of your power. Some will call it peace, sensing the tranquility that emanates from your presence. Others will call it presence, recognizing the divine connection that you possess. But you will know that it is heaven breaking through you, manifesting its love and power in tangible ways. That's why you've endured storms that seemed senseless, trials that appeared to have no purpose. Every storm cleared a path for the sunrise within you, allowing your inner light to shine even more brightly. Now, when you walk into rooms that once felt oppressive, filled with negativity and despair, the atmosphere bends towards peace, shifting towards tranquility. When you speak, tension dissolves, replaced by understanding and compassion. When you pray, walls crumble and hearts are healed. That's what happens when heaven entrusts someone with light. It becomes contagious, spreading to everyone around them. You are no longer the one looking for light in others, searching for guidance and hope. You are the one carrying it for them, offering a beacon in their darkness. Chosen one, never underestimate the power of what you carry within you. You don't have to strive or struggle to shine. Just stay connected to the source, the wellspring of divine love and grace. As long as your gaze remains fixed on heaven, as long as you keep your eyes on Jesus, your flame will never fade. The light that broke through your own darkness now burns in you for others, illuminating their path and guiding them towards hope. That's your calling, your legacy, your miracle, the gift you were born to share with the world. And heaven smiles upon you with unwavering love and approval, knowing that you have become what the world desperately needs, proof that darkness never wins, that light always triumphs in the end. Chosen one, there are sounds in heaven that human ears rarely hear, melodies of such exquisite beauty that they transcend earthly comprehension. Songs of celebration, woven with light, echoing through eternity, filling the cosmos with joy. Those sounds are not abstract concepts. They are deeply personal, intimate expressions of divine love. They carry names, stories, and victories, each one a testament to the power of faith and perseverance. And among those celestial melodies now plays your name, a recognition of your unwavering obedience and your triumphant spirit. Heaven sings when obedience births transformation, when surrendering to God's will leads to profound and lasting change. It is not a distant choir humming far away, a faint and ethereal sound. It is a living vibration, a palpable energy that passes through all of creation itself, resonating in the very fabric of reality. Right now, that vibration includes you, enveloping you in its warmth and love. Imagine, if you can, the moment heaven began to sing over your surrender, celebrating your unwavering faith. The angels who once guarded you through every battle, protecting you from harm, now dance in joy, rejoicing in your victory. The saints who overcame before you, those who paved the way with their own sacrifices, now smile in recognition, understanding the profound significance of this moment. You didn't just survive. You aligned yourself with the rhythm of divine will, harmonizing your life with God's perfect plan. That alignment always triggers heaven's music, unleashing a symphony of praise and gratitude. When God rejoices, it is not a mere expression, a fleeting moment of happiness. It is creation rejoicing with him, a universal celebration of his goodness and faithfulness. The stars shimmer brighter, reflecting his radiant glory. The winds soften, carrying his gentle whisper of peace. The earth exhales a sigh of relief, releasing the tension and anxiety that have been weighing it down. It's as if all things that once groaned under the weight of delay now sing because you've stepped into your purpose, because you've embraced your destiny with open arms. The very atmosphere surrounding your destiny hums in harmony, resonating with the divine music that is being played in your honor. This is the profound mystery of heaven's celebration. It's not about accomplishment, about achieving worldly success or recognition. It's about alignment, about attuning your heart to God's will. Heaven doesn't sing when you build something grand, something that impresses the world. It doesn't sing when you finally feel successful, reaching the pinnacle of your career. It sings when your heart beats in sync with God's, when your soul resonates with his love. That's the sound echoing right now, filling your spirit with joy and peace. You've learned to walk to heaven's rhythm, to dance to the beat of his drum, to trust in his perfect timing. And the universe responds with worship, bowing down in awe and reverence. Chosen one, for so long you felt invisible, overlooked and forgotten by the world. You gave generously, you loved unconditionally, you served quietly, while others were seen and celebrated, receiving all the accolades and recognition. But now, heaven sings for the one who remained faithful when no one was watching, for the one who persevered through trials and tribulations without seeking praise or attention. Your name has reached heaven's song list, not because you were loud or boastful, but because you were loyal, because you remained true to your calling even in the face of adversity. You may never hear the melody with your physical ears, but your spirit already recognizes it, resonating with its divine harmony. That's why lately, peace feels deeper, a tranquility that surpasses all understanding. Like music without words, it washes over you, soothing your soul. That's why joy sometimes appears for no apparent reason, bubbling up from within like a spring of living water. It's the echo of heaven's chorus breaking through your atmosphere, filling your heart with unspeakable joy. We hear of this divine music in the words of the psalmist, echoing through the ages. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 150, verse 6. Let everything that has breath praise the Lord. That is what heaven's celebration truly is, every breath of creation praising the one who restores, redeems, and reigns. And your life, chosen one, has become one of those praises, a living testament to his glory. Every heartbeat, every act of grace, every whispered prayer is now part of the grand symphony of heaven's joy, contributing to the harmonious chorus of praise. In heaven's eyes, you are not simply a listener, passively observing the celebration from a distance. You are an integral part of the orchestra, actively participating in the divine performance. Your perseverance adds rhythm, providing a steady beat that drives the music forward. Your forgiveness adds melody, creating a beautiful and harmonious tune. Your worship adds harmony, enriching the music with layers of depth and complexity. You don't just receive heaven's song, you contribute to it, adding your unique voice to the celestial chorus. That's why your presence carries weight, why you have such a profound impact on the world around you. Wherever you go, you bring a piece of that divine music with you, spreading joy and hope to those who are lost and hurting. Heaven's celebration doesn't end when the music fades, when the final note has been played. It continues through the life that provoked it, echoing in every act of love and kindness. The angels that rejoiced at your breakthrough now accompany you into each new step, guiding you and protecting you on your journey. They are heaven's musicians, following the rhythm of your destiny, ensuring that the song never stops, that the music of your life continues to resonate with His glory. When you speak life into someone who feels forgotten, when you offer words of encouragement and hope, the music swells, becoming even more powerful. When you forgive someone who wounded you, when you release the bitterness and resentment that have been poisoning your soul, another note joins the harmony, creating a more complete and beautiful sound. When you worship in silence, offering your heart to God in humble adoration, heaven's song crescendos, reaching its peak of intensity. You may never see the notes on the page, but you can feel their vibration in your spirit every time love wins over pride, every time compassion triumphs over judgment. Heaven sings louder, celebrating the victory of good over evil. There are times when the world's noise tries to drown it out, the cacophony of doubt, the clamor of comparison, the constant distractions that pull you away from His presence. But even then, heaven's melody remains steady underneath, a constant reminder of His unwavering love and faithfulness. The world may not celebrate you, may not recognize your worth or appreciate your contributions, but heaven already has, and that celebration will soon manifest as favor, peace, and strength in your daily life, empowering you to overcome any obstacle that stands in your way. Chosen one, understand this profound truth. Heaven's song is not an ending. It is a beginning. When God sings over you, it's His way of declaring, the old has passed away, and the new has begun. He is ushering you into a new season of blessing and abundance, a time of unprecedented growth and fulfillment. Heaven doesn't waste its voice when it sings. It seals your destiny, confirming the path you are meant to follow. Your obedience has sealed this new season, guaranteeing your success and prosperity. The melody of your destiny has shifted from mourning to dancing, from waiting to walking, from hiddenness to heralding. You are moving from a place of obscurity to a platform of influence, where you can share your gifts and talents with the world. And though you may never hear the full sound this side of eternity, when all is revealed and you stand face to face with your Creator, you'll realize that every moment of silence you endured, every period of waiting, was just heaven taking a breath before singing your name, preparing for the grand celebration that was to come. Heaven's song continues, chosen one, and you are its reason, its inspiration, its source of joy. Chosen one, the crown that rests upon your head right now is not made of gold or jewels, sparkling and glittering with earthly riches. It is made of endurance, of tears transformed into triumph, of faith that refused to die in the dark, of a spirit that refused to be broken by adversity. You were something invisible yet radiant, a testament to the trials you have overcome. Forged in the fires you once prayed to escape, it shimmers with divine glory, a beacon of hope for those who are still struggling in the darkness. Heaven calls it glory, the manifestation of God's presence in your life. But you might know it better as peace, a deep and abiding tranquility that surpasses all understanding, guarding your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. It sits quietly, humbly, without demanding attention or recognition. But the spirit realm recognizes it instantly, sensing the authority and power that it represents. Every battle you've fought, every betrayal you've endured, every lonely night you've spent wrestling with doubt and fear has been woven into that crown, becoming an integral part of its beauty and strength. Each scar has become a gem, reflecting the light of heaven with unparalleled brilliance. Each hardship has become metal, melted and reshaped by grace, transformed into a testament of God's unwavering love. When you thought you were losing, when you felt like you were at your breaking point, heaven was crafting, meticulously shaping you into the person you were destined to be. You didn't realize it then, but you were being measured for royalty, prepared to reign with Christ in the kingdom of heaven. You are crowned not because you conquered through strength, through your own power and might, but because you endured through surrender, because you chose to yield your will to His, trusting in His perfect plan. You chose faith when doubt was easier, when it would have been easier to give up and walk away. You chose forgiveness when anger felt justified, when your heart cried out for revenge. You chose to keep walking when your feet were weary, when your legs trembled with exhaustion, and your heart was raw and bleeding. And heaven saw it all, witnessing your unwavering commitment to His purpose. Every decision you made, every choice you embraced, built the foundation for your coronation, preparing you to receive the crown of glory that awaits you. There is a moment in heaven's timeline where the crown is placed, not by angels, but by the King Himself, the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings. It happens not when life becomes perfect, when all your problems are solved and your dreams come true, but when the soul becomes steadfast, when your spirit is unshakable in its faith. You've reached that moment, chosen one. You stand now as one who has been tried and tested, and found trustworthy, a faithful servant who has proven himself worthy of honor and praise. Crowned in glory does not mean you stand above others, looking down on them with pride and arrogance. It means you carry heaven's authority with humility, using your power to serve others and lift them up. You have become a bridge between pain and promise, a living testament to the transformative power of God's love. You understand both human frailty and divine faithfulness, and you use your story to inspire others to overcome their own challenges. Your story is now a throne for others to rest upon, a source of comfort and encouragement for those who are weary and discouraged. The Apostle Paul wrote in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, "There is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord will award to all who love His appearing." That promise now breathes through your life, filling you with hope and anticipation. You were not just your own crown, but the reflection of generations who prayed before you, those who paved the way with their sacrifices and unwavering faith. The mantle on your shoulders carries weight, representing the responsibility you have to lead and guide others. But it's not the burden of fear, a heavy weight that crushes your spirit. It's the beauty of responsibility, the honor of serving God and making a difference in the world. Heaven's favor doesn't come to make you comfortable, to shield you from all challenges and adversity. It comes to make you capable, to empower you to fulfill your calling and impact the world for good. Chosen one. The world around you may not see the crown, may not recognize the glory that you carry, but they will feel its presence, sensing the divine authority that emanates from you. When you speak, peace will follow, calming troubled hearts and soothing anxious minds. When you walk into chaos, order will emerge, replacing confusion with clarity. When you stretch out your hands, restoration will flow, healing broken bodies and mending wounded spirits. This is what it means to be crowned with purpose, to be a vessel of God's love and grace. You carry the touch of heaven wherever you go, transforming the atmosphere with your presence. And if this word has stirred your spirit, if you feel a connection to these truths, take a moment to breathe deeply and reflect on all that you have overcome. You've come so far, not by your own strength, but by grace that refused to let go of you, that carried you through the darkest of nights. If you feel that gratitude rising in your chest, welling up within you, let it move you to action, not out of obligation or guilt, but out of a genuine connection to the divine. When you like this message, you're not just clicking a button. You're lifting your torch, declaring your allegiance to the light. You're joining thousands of other chosen ones who are saying, "Yes, I see the light. I wear the crown of glory. I embrace my destiny with open arms." It's a small gesture, a simple click, but heaven recognizes even the smallest acknowledgement of truth, valuing every expression of faith. When you share it, you become a messenger of crowns, spreading hope and encouragement to those who are still struggling. Somewhere out there, someone is still in their battle, fighting their own demons, unaware that glory is being formed from their struggle, that their trials are shaping them into something beautiful and strong. Your share might be the whisper that gives them. Here's the requested rewrite. The fruit you bear is for eternity. Each offering you make creates a ripple effect, extending light into the darkest, unseen corners of the earth. It's a powerful statement to God. I'm investing where you've spoken to my heart. And when you've done that, pause for a moment and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let your words resonate with purpose. It could be a simple note, I receive, or I am crowned. Whatever it is, let it be your written form of worship. The comments in this space aren't just background noise. They're echoes of faith, interwoven to create a beautiful chorus. Heaven is listening, chosen one. Never underestimate the power of your agreement. When you participate, when you offer blessings, when you give, you're strengthening the very bridge that led you here. You're ensuring that the oil keeps flowing, lighting the way for others who will discover this same light during their darkest hours. So, wear your invisible crown with confidence, not to draw attention to yourself, but to guide others toward the light. Move with gentleness, speak with kindness, and let your peace announce your presence even before you utter a word. The crown you wear is not fragile, it's eternal, and heaven smiles, watching you walk with grace, knowing that this journey was worth every single tear. You are living proof that endurance always leads to glory, chosen one. Walking in the smile of God is an experience unlike any other. It's not about the absence of challenges, but about the unwavering presence of peace that cannot be shaken. It's the feeling that everything around you, every circumstance, every encounter is touched by divine timing. You'll begin to notice that things that once seemed random now feel orchestrated, that the very air you breathe carries an unseen blessing. This is what it means to move beneath heaven's smile. When God smiles, things fall into place, paths straighten out, conversations become catalysts, and people appear at just the right moment with exactly what you need. This isn't coincidence. It's divine orchestration. The smile of God doesn't just bring blessings. It brings order. It places you at the center of a divine choreography, where every step you take has purpose. This favor isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet and consistent, like sunlight gently warming a room. You might not notice it at first, but others will. They'll see the ease in your life, the peace that follows your decisions, and the way closed doors no longer intimidate you. That's not luck. It's the undeniable evidence of divine approval. Chosen one, you've entered a stage of grace where the constant striving has come to an end. You no longer need to chase after what was already destined for you. You've learned to trust that if God smiles upon you, no force can undo his blessing. There's a deep sense of serenity that comes from knowing that heaven isn't just watching. You're walking in perfect rhythm with it. The smile of God isn't a fleeting glance. It's a continuous state of blessing. It means his presence walks alongside you, his favor surrounds you, and his hand upholds you. You no longer walk in fear of failure, because grace has already paved your way. You no longer fear rejection, because acceptance has already crowned you. Sometimes this favor feels subtle, like finding peace in a place that once held pain, or hearing clarity where confusion once reigned. At other times, it's unmistakable. Doors swinging wide open, prayers answered swiftly, burdens lifted suddenly. But in every form, it carries the same resounding truth. God is pleased. Heaven doesn't smile without reason. The Father's delight resides where trust dwells. You've given him your trust, and he's responding with assurance. He's reminding you that his pleasure isn't based on your performance. You don't have to earn what love has already freely given. You have become like a tree planted by streams of living water. You no longer worry about drought, because your roots run deep into divine joy. When others wither in dry seasons, you'll continue to bear fruit, not because of your own effort, but because of your deep connection. That's the power of God's smile. It sustains you beyond every season. It was written long ago in the book of Psalms, 5:12. For you bless the righteous, O Lord. You surround them with favor as with a shield. That favor is your protection now. It shields you from unnecessary battles, softens the blows meant to break you, and attracts blessings that others can't explain. You've stepped into the flow of divine ease, not a life without work, but a life where work and worship flow together as one. This favor isn't just for your benefit. It's also for your influence. Wherever you go, the atmosphere shifts, because the smile of God follows you. It's not arrogance. It's anointing. People may not understand why they feel a sense of peace around you, but they'll remember it. That's the power of a life favored by heaven. It preaches without words, chosen one. Take note of what's happening around you. The same situations that once drained you now seem to yield positive results. The tasks that once exhausted you now flow effortlessly. Even your relationships are being realigned. Those who can't walk in peace are gently moving out of your orbit, while those destined for your next chapter are finding their way into your life. The smile of God doesn't need applause. It simply exists, as constant as the dawn. It carries the assurance that you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what heaven needs you to do. And although challenges may still arise, they no longer intimidate you, because you've learned the difference between trials that test you and trials that teach you. You've realized that favor isn't about avoiding difficulty. It's about walking through it untouched by despair. That's the true mark of those who carry heaven's smile. They face storms but remain calm. They encounter conflict but stay composed. They move through chaos with quiet strength. Chosen one, this is your new posture. Calm, confident, covered. The days of striving are over. You walk not in haste but in harmony, not in panic but in purpose. The smile of God rests upon you, and wherever that light shines, nothing remains ordinary. You are favored, surrounded, and seen. Heaven isn't just watching. It's walking with you. Chosen one, heaven's joy doesn't fade. It deepens. What began as a whisper has now become a rhythm that guides your steps. You've come full circle, from struggle to surrender, from obedience to overflow. This is the resting place of divine fulfillment, the moment where all of heaven's delight meets your earthly walk. You are living proof that obedience brings not only reward, but eternal joy. Heaven's joy isn't like human happiness. It doesn't rise and fall with circumstances. It's anchored in truth, as steady as eternity. It's the sound that fills the throne room when a child of God completes what was destined for them. It's the echo of satisfaction in the heart of the Creator, who sees his reflection in his creation and calls it good once more. You are that reflection. You have become what heaven dreamed of, a vessel refined, responsive, radiant. The Father looks upon you and smiles, not just for what you've done, but for who you've become. Every act of faith, every unseen choice for righteousness, every moment of quiet worship has built a symphony of joy that heaven will play forever. Chosen one, look at how far you've come. Once you were weighed down by fear, by uncertainty, by the endless striving to be enough. But through every fire, through every silence, through every call to trust, you have been transformed. You now move differently, not from pressure, but from peace. You're no longer chasing God's approval. You're walking in it. The eternal joy of heaven flows through you now. It's not a fleeting emotion, but a state of being. You carry it in your spirit, in your words, in your presence. This joy is what sustains those who've chosen to remain faithful when the world lost faith. It's what sets the chosen apart. The quiet glow of contentment that comes from knowing they are aligned with eternity. Eternal joy is heaven's inheritance for those who obey. It cannot be stolen, diluted, or delayed. It remains because it's built not on outcomes, but on relationship. You no longer serve for reward. You serve from revelation. You no longer seek favor, you carry it. This is the transformation the Father longed to see. The moment his child stops striving to please him and starts living as one already loved, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 23, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord." And this is that moment, chosen one. The invitation to enter, to step fully into joy, not as a guest, but as family. The doors of heaven's delight have swung wide open, and you are welcomed, not for your perfection, but for your perseverance. Heaven's joy isn't merely something you feel. It's something you've become. The journey you walked wasn't only about victory. It was about transformation. You learned that divine joy is born in the soil of surrender. You discovered that real faith isn't about escaping trials, but embracing God through them. And now, every step you take radiates with the quiet confidence of one who knows they are loved, chosen, and complete. Eternal joy isn't loud. It hums softly beneath your life, like a holy heartbeat. It's what steadies your soul when the world trembles. It's what allows you to bless others from abundance instead of need. And though storms may still pass, they will never unsettle you again, because joy has taken root too deeply to be uprooted. Heaven's smile over you now is permanent. The Father doesn't just visit your life. He inhabits it. You have become a dwelling place for joy itself, a temple not built by hands, but by obedience and trust. The fragrance of your faith rises continually before Him, and in return, His joy flows endlessly toward you, chosen one. The world will see the difference. They'll wonder why you glow in the dark, why you speak with calm in chaos, why your laughter carries peace instead of pride. They'll sense the eternal in you, the evidence that you've walked with heaven and survived its fire, that you've tasted grace and chosen to live in it forever. So walk on, not as one seeking to arrive, but as one who already belongs. Every sunrise will now feel like a continuation of heaven's smile. Every night will close with the echo of divine laughter. You are not merely blessed. You are a blessing. Not merely chosen, but completed. The script of your obedience has become a song that will never end. Heaven's joy is your new language, and eternity your new rhythm. You have entered the dance that never ceases. The joy of the Lord, written across time and sealed upon your soul. Heaven smiles still, chosen one, and it will never stop. Chosen one, if this message has spoken to the quiet corners of your heart, take a moment to breathe in what you've just received. Let it settle. Let it anchor. You've journeyed through surrender, revelation, and joy, and now you stand beneath heaven's smile, crowned with peace. If your spirit felt the weight and wonder of these words, consider sharing that light forward. When you like this message, it isn't just a gesture. It's a ripple. It tells heaven, I heard you. When you share, you extend that same whisper of hope to someone still wandering through their night. You become the bridge between their despair and their dawn. Leave a comment below, just a word, a phrase, even an emoji. Every echo of gratitude written here becomes a chorus of faith that heaven reads like worship. And if this sanctuary of words has nurtured your soul, subscribe to remain in the rhythm of heaven's voice. Stay close to the flow. More words will come, not to entertain, but to remind you who you are. Chosen, covered, and unshakably loved. Heaven smiled because you arrived here. Keep that light moving forward.